Video 15 is the stencil pod. To get to the stencils, you simply click on this and the pod will open up, and in the active one it will be empty. In the favorites it will be ones I've used, and in the stencils, let's move this up a little bit so you can see, and we can bring the grip down. Buttons, comic, festive, friskets, fun, gradients, grids, rulers, shapes, textures, mine that I've made. And if we want to add a group, we simply add a group and maybe call it something like planets. And then if you have any pictures of planets, you could put them in this particular folder or category and click OK. And it then comes down here. And you could import a stencil and say go into Hubble, Mars, and then I would have a stencil for Mars in it. That's how easy it is to import a stencil. It can be a JPEG, a PNG, whatever, and it'll make a stencil from whatever you've got on your hard drive. Now over here is the menu. I've just shown you how to add a stencil group. You can open the user stencil folder and you can see where the planets is now there. And if we go in here, we can add a default ruler. And if I move this over, you can right click on it and bring it over. I can make a new stencil layer contents if I had anything in there. I can select a stencil from disk. I can select a ruler from disk. I can select a guide from disk. I can hide all stencils, or I can show all stencils, or I can remove all stencils from the canvas. Now let's go back into rulers. Let's click on this one. I'm going to right click. No, put this down for now. And I want to show you how to use the ruler. Let's move the canvas down so you can see this better. Now you take the grip and you move it out. Take this grip and move it out. And it looks a little shaky, but if you hold down your shift key, it will make a straight line. That way when you go to paint, let's move this down a little bit. You don't have to be up here. You can be right on the ruler and simply paint across. Very, very easy. And you have a straight line. Now you can have as many of the rulers as you want on your canvas. Let's right click. I can grip it, bring it down, hold down my shift key, and it'll be straight. I can do the same with this one, rotate it, hold down my shift key, and it'll be straight. And then all I have to do is right click and bring it over. Then I can right click on this one, hold down my shift key, and it's completely square. Then all I would have to do is paint. Well, it would have helped if I would have brought this one up, but I can, and then just simply take the eraser and erase the edge, so that when I move these, I have a rectangle. Now, another thing you can do with these rulers is you can, let's take this and move it to the end. Then if I hold down my control key, I can rotate it This can make a good perspective if you need to. Another thing is you can right click and you can have it, this is in ruler mode, you can have it in stencil mode. You right click, you can have it a ruler, you can right click and have it in guide, you can right click and flip it horizontally, you can right click and flip it vertically. Let's bring it down. And you can right click and set the stencil at an angle. And let's say I wanted it 25. Click OK, and it does it. And I can right click. I could invert the stencil, but not with this one. I can reset the pen position so it goes back to the middle. I can right click and reset the stencil scale. I can right click, hide the stencil, remove the stencil, or store it in the collection. So let's go back to the stencils. Let's go into Fun and choose Hearts. Now I can right click, and if I hold down my Alt key, the little magnifying glass, if I go down I can make it smaller, if I go up I can make it bigger. I can click and say choose a red, and let's paint with the airbrush. And then I could right click and I can flip it horizontally, move it over a tad, paint again, and I have two cute little hearts. Now, another part I want to show you is if I go into active, you'll see that the stencil is right in active, meaning that it's on the canvas. If I click the eye, it'll hide it. From here, I can do any of the things. I can store the stencil in a collection, and I could pick which one I wanted. Say I wanted to put it in mine, and I could give it a name like Hearts and click Save. But I can also go back into the active, make the stencil come up. I can right click and make the stencil not be red, but be so I can see it a lot better what's underneath. Now that's so cool. And if I go over here, I can do a new stencil from the layer contents. And I have my whole layer, what was on here, as a stencil. Then I could right click and I can store this stencil in the collection. I could put it in mine, and I could call it, say, Hearts 2, and save. So let's right click, remove the stencil, right click, and remove this stencil. In our next video, we're going to be talking about the tracing pod.